Hello, so today's video is on finding percentages of an amount, and this is a grade 3 topic. This can be both a calculator and a non-calculator topic. So what I'll do with the examples I work through, I'll show you how to do it both without a calculator and with a calculator as well. These are the types of questions you might get on finding percentages of amounts. I'll go through examples of increasing difficulty so you can see how to do them. So the first thing you're going to need to do is you will need to be able to divide by 10 and divide by 2, both with and without a calculator. You will also need to be able to add and subtract both integers, which means whole numbers. So for example 1, 2, 3, 4, not 1.5, 2.3, 3.7, those are decimals. But you also need to be able to add and subtract decimals as well. Okay, so I've got 4 examples of increasing difficulty. And I'm going to start with showing you how to do this without a calculator. So to find 25% of 2,800, now some of you might know some of the easier percentages. 50% is the same as 1/2. 25% is the same as 1/4. And these could be both written as 1/2 and 1/4. Those are the kind of slightly easier ones, but you need to be able to find other percentages as well. Now this is where this method comes in quite useful. I'm going to show you something called the bubble method. Now all you do with the bubble method is you draw yourself 6 circles, all lined up like that, and all you need to do is the top left bubble, you're going to write the number you're given in here. So in this case that's 2,800. This is the amount, and this will always represent 100%. So the amount 2,800 is inside the bubble. I'll tell you what, I'll do this bit in a different colour, and that 100% goes on the outside. So that tells me that that first bubble is worth 100%. One whole is 2,800. Now the key things here are that every time you move to the right you divide by 10, and every time you move down you divide by 2. If you forget which way round it goes in an exam, it doesn't really matter. You could divide by 2 every time you move to the right and divide by 10 every time you move down, as long as you are consistent and you do the same thing each time. So I'm just going to draw some arrows on here, and some down arrows here as well. And every time we go to the right we're going to divide by 10, and every time we move down the way I'm going to divide by 2. Okay, now you do this for both the percentage, which is on the outside, and the number, the amount, which is on the inside. So let's start with the percentages. Moving to the right, 100 divided by 10 would give you 10%, and then we do this 10% divided by 10 gives you 1%. Now we do the same moving down the way. So 100% divided by 2 would give you 50%, and 50% divided by 2 gives you 25%. Okay, now to find this bubble here, you can either do 50% divided by 10 or 10% divided by 2. Either way, you're going to get 5%. So that's the percentages. Now we do the same with the amount, the number inside. So moving to the right, 2,800 divided by 10 gives you 280. And then 280 divided by 10 gives you 28. Every time we go down we half the number or divide it by 2. So this is going to be 1,400, and this is going to be 700. And here we can either do 1,400 divided by 10, or we could do 280 divided by 2. Either way I get 140. Now once you've filled in that whole bubble method, you can just use these different percentages to find to kind of answer the question. So if the question asks for 25% of 2,800, which was 1/4, we're just going to find the 25% bubble, and that tells me that that is 700. So 25% of 2,800 is 700. Okay, now that works quite nicely if you are asked to find a percentage that is in the bubble method. Sometimes, however, you will be given a question like this, where 94%, the percentage we're trying to find, is not in this bubble method. You are still going to start by drawing yourself 6 bubbles. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And same as before, every time we go to the right, we divide by 10. Every time we go down, we divide by 2. So I'm just going to write these in quickly. Right, now the percentages will always be the same. This top bubble is always 100%. This bubble will always be 10%. This will be 1%. This will be 50%. This will be 25%. And this will be 5%. So now what we're going to do is we are going to put those values inside the bubble. So this 3,300 represents 1 whole, or 100%. That is 3,300. Divided by 10 gives me 330. Divided by 10 again gives me 33. Half of 3,300, well, half of 3,000 is 1,500. Half of 300 is 150. So this is going to be 1,650. Remember, if you weren't sure, you could do 3,300 divided by 2 using the bus stop method. 2's going to 3 once with 1 left over. 2's going to 13 6 times with 1 left over. 2's going to 10 5 times with nothing left over. And 2's going to 0 0 times. So that's 1,650. Okay, now to half that again, we're going to get 825, and you can use the bus stop method again if you need to. And then to get this bubble here, we can either do 330 divided by 2, or I could do 1,650 divided by 10. Either way, I get 165. Okay, now you're looking for percentages that either add up or subtract to get 94%. So in this example, what I would probably do is I would do 100%. If I used 100% and then I took away 5%, that's going to give me 95%. So 100% is 3,300. 5% is 165. If I take these away, I can't do 0 take away 5, so I need to look over to the tens column. I cannot borrow from there, so I need to borrow from there. 10, cross that out, becomes a 9. 10 take away 5 gives you 5. 9 take away 6 gives you 3. 2 take away 1 gives you 1. And 3 nothing gives you 3. Now that's 95%. I wanted to find 94%. So using my 95%, I'm now going to take away another 1%. So 1% was 33. So I'm now going to take this away. 5 take away 3 gives me 2. 3 take away 3 gives me nothing. 1 take away nothing. Remember, you can fill in those blanks with zeros. 1 take away nothing gives me 0. 3 take away nothing. 1 take away nothing gives me 1. And 3 take away nothing gives me 3. So that tells me that 94% is 3,102. And you can always, there's always more than one way of doing this. So for example, rather than taking away, you could have done 50% plus 25% would give you 75%. And then you could have added 10% to give you 85%. Then you could have added 5% to give you 90%. And then you could have added 4 lots of 1%. So you could have found out what all those percentages are from your bubble method and then added them all up. But sometimes it's easier to take them away, which is what I did there. Okay. You might also, for the third example, you might also get some kind of worded questions. It's the same idea, but you do need to be able to kind of pick out the key information. So Zoe, in this case, gives 12% of her salary to charity. She earns 14,000 euros per annum, which means per year. And the question is asking, how much does Zoe give to charity? So in this example, the percentage that we're trying to find is 12%. That's the percentage. And the amount that represents 100%, the whole, is 14,000 euros. So we're basically trying to find 12% of the whole of that 14,000. So once again, here are my bubbles. When you get really good at this, you don't need to draw them all out, because you'll know which bubbles you need, and then you can just go straight to those bubbles. But it's good practice. It's a good habit to get into until you're getting them right every time. So remember, this top left bubble is always 100%. This bubble will always be 10%, 1%, 50%, 25%, and 5%. So the number, that 14,000, is going to go in here. I'm not going to put the units in just while we work it out, as long as we remember to put them in at the end. So this dividing by 10 gives you 1,400, and then 1% be 140. Halving this, dividing by 2, 7,000. Halving that again will give you 3,500. And then either 1,400 divided by 2 or 7,000 divided by 10, either way you get 700. So I want to find 12%. So I'm going to do that by 10% and then 2 lots of 1%. So if 10% is 1,400, 1% is 100. Line it up. So under the 4, the 140, and then another 1% as well, which is 140, and we're going to add these things up, because then that's going to give me 12%. So starting on the right, 0 plus 0 plus 0, so that was the units, the tens, the hundreds, and the thousands. Adding up the tens, that gives me 8. Adding up the hundreds, that gives me 6. And then adding up the thousands, that's going to give me 1. So 12% of 14,000 euros, 12% of 14,000 euros is 1,680 euros. So how much money does Zoe give to charity each year? That's 1,680. Be very careful with these worded questions, because sometimes this might say how much money does Zoe keep for herself or not give to charity. So you just need to be careful with those questions, because then you need to work out how much she gives to charity and then take that away from the original amount, the 14,000. Okay. Last example, we've done all of this without a calculator. I'll go on to doing I'll just recap some of these examples very quickly at the end on how you'd approach them with a calculator. Right, so you'll notice with this one, you have this 0.5% at the end. Now, it's nothing to worry about. If I start by drawing my 6 bubbles, lining them all up as I did before, this is 100%, 10%, 1%, 50%, 25%, and 5%. Now remember the thing we started with. I said every time you go to the right, you divide by 10. And every time we move down the way, we half the number or divide it by 2. So this 1000, different colour, this 1080 is going to go in there. Now you'll notice that the 0.5% bit is not in that bubble method. However, if you were to add, I'll do this in a different colour, you could add another bubble to this. So there are two kind of really important bubbles here. You could either, well, you could add two bubbles actually. You could add another bubble on the end here. If I did 1% divided by 2, that is going to give me 0.5%. Alternatively, I could do 5% divided by 10, and that would give me 0.5%. So I'm just going to, you could also add another bubble as well actually. So you could add another one down here. Sorry, you could add another one up here. It's not this one. So you could add another, you could divide by 10 over there, and in doing that you would find 0.1% of a number. So these two green bubbles that I've done are actually going to be quite useful. So let's just fill in the missing numbers. Dividing this by 10 would give me 108. Dividing it by 10 again would give me 10.8. And then dividing that by 10 again would give me 1.08. If I just fill in the rest of the bubbles as well, so this is going to be 540. This is going to be 270. This is going to be 54. And this is going to be 5.4. Okay, now we can use those additional percentages, those green bubbles that I found, to find that missing percentage if I need to. So to find 40%, for example, there's always more than one way of doing it. I'm going to use 25% and 10%, which will get me to 35%, another 5% to get me to 40%. I'm then going to use 3 1% to get me to 43%, and then if I zoom out a little bit, 0.5%, and that would get me to the 43.5% that I'm looking for. So 43.5%. So now if I just put in those percentages, the 25% was 270, the 10% was 108, the 5% was 54. Remember, it's important to line everything, all the units, the tens and the hundreds up when you do this. The 1% was 10.8, another 10.8, another 10.8, and then the 0.5%, which was that extra bubble, was 5.4. Now it might be worth just filling in the point zeros on the rest of them there, and then we're just going to add these up. So starting with the tenths, 8 plus 8 plus 8 gives you, sorry, 0.8 plus 0.8 plus 0.8, or 8 plus 8 plus 8 gives you 24, plus that 4 gives you 28. So I'm just going to put the decimal there, carry the 2 and write the 8 there. Then I'm going to do the units column. 8 plus 4 is 12, add the 5 is 17, add the 2 is 19. Now the tens column, 7 plus 5 is 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And then adding the hundreds column, 2 plus 1 plus that 1 is going to give me 4. So 43.5% is 469.8. So 43.5% of 1080. Okay, very quickly, I'm just going to show you how you might do one of these questions with a calculator. So everything I've shown you so far has been without a calculator. So if I just take this question, you could do any of these questions, but if I was finding 94% of 3,300, remember a percentage can be written as a decimal. So if we were to write this as a decimal, we can convert that into a decimal by dividing by 100. That gives me 0.94. In maths, of means times. And then we have this 3,300. So when you come to doing these questions with a calculator, we call this bit the multiplier. It's just the decimal version of percentage, as long as you then remember that of in maths means times. So now all you need to do in your calculator is to write 0.94, and we're going to multiply that by 3,300, and you get the same answer, 3,102. Now that will work with any of the examples to find that percentage of that amount. Okay, that's it. I've covered the 4 examples. I'm just going to show you quickly this question generator that I've made. So it's set already to do questions of increasing difficulty. As always, I'll put a link to this file in the description of the YouTube video. But you will need to click enable content in the little yellow ribbon that appears at the top. If you don't click on that, the buttons won't work. So you can, for the first 2 types of questions, you can set it so that it only has integer, which is a mathematical way of saying whole number answers, or you can have decimals, or you can have a mixture if you're feeling confident. Once you've got the hang of individual types of question, let's say you just want to practice question 1, you can do that. You can get all the answers at once, one at a time, or you can get them all at once, and it will generate new questions for you. Once you've got the hang of all 4 types, you can try a mixture of questions, which is where I don't tell you what type of question it is, and that makes it really good practice to show that you really understand the topic. That's it. That's the video on percentages. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.